Okay, so we're about to dive into the super dark legend of Peter Stump, a guy who became known as the Beast of Bedburg. But here's the thing, this isn't just one straightforward story. Oh no. It's a legend that's been twisted and retold in some radically different ways, and each version tells us something really fascinating about the people who told it.
So, that's the big question for us today, isn't it? We've got one historical figure, but at least three completely separate, monstrous legends about him. Our goal here is to unpack these tales and see what they tell us, not just about the man, but really about the nature of fear, power, and even storytelling itself. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to explore a surprisingly philosophical take on the whole thing, the Nietzschean parable. Then, we'll totally switch gears to a more classic tale of demonic horror. After that, we'll look at a cautionary story where the monster, well, it might not be who you think. Finally, we'll mash them all together to see what they reveal and end with one last really haunting question. First up is this really unique interpretation. Peter Stump. Not as some simple beast, but as a kind of philosophical Superman, an Ubermensch. Yeah, you heard that right. This version recasts the legend as a parable about breaking free from society's chains. This one quote, this basically sums up the entire philosophy of this version. See, in this story, Stump isn't seen as evil in the way we usually think of it. He's something else. He's a being who decided to live by his own rules, and that kind of absolute freedom was just terrifying to everyone around him.
So to really get this, we got to understand this concept of the Ubermensch, at least how it's used here. It's all about a person who moves past the simple good and evil that the masses agree on, what the story calls herd morality. Instead, they create their own values, all based on their own personal strength and will to power.
This version of Stump is all about one thing, power. He's not looking for salvation. That alchemical serum he uses, it's not a curse, it's a tool he uses to become more than human. He's wielding these insane forms of magic and just living on pure instinct, completely rejecting the village's moral code. And even at the end, when he's caught, no fear, just pure contempt for the people who could never understand his freedom.
So, what happens when we just throw all that philosophy out the window and dive headfirst into pure supernatural horror? Well, that's our second version. In this story, Peter Stump is no Ubermensch. He's the star of a dark Faustian bargain, and it's all driven by a very, very human desire. The motivation here is what makes this version so compelling. This Peter Stump is, well, he's kind of relatable. He's a farmer who was wronged in a big way, lost his hand in some dispute, which is how he got the nickname Stump. Everything that happens next isn't about some grand quest for power. It's about a very personal, burning need for revenge. And his path to getting that revenge is a classic deal with the devil. He literally summons the demon Mephistopheles and trades his soul for a vial with this potent alchemical serum. Bam! That gives him the power to transform whenever he wants, and it even unlocks a bonus power, rune magic. It's all very structured, a very clear cause and effect kind of deal. And the consequences? They were just staggering. This wasn't some quick little rampage. In this version of the legend, his reign of terror lasted for a full 25 years, a quarter of a century. That length of time just really drives home the scale of his cruelty and the incredible power he held over the entire region of Bedburg. Okay, this is a really fascinating little detail. So when Stump was finally caught and, tortured, he confessed to everything. The serum, the rune magic, the whole shebang. But the authorities, they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. So what did they do? They simplified it. They translated his complex confession into a story they could understand. A simple magic belt given to him by the devil. And the story ends with this absolutely brutal twist. Mephistopheles shows up and reveals that the power was never really Stump's to begin with. The serum was just a pipeline for the demon's own power, a trick to make sure his soul was locked down. So in the end, he wasn't a master of his own destiny. He was just a pawn. Now for our third and final version, and this one shifts the focus in a huge way. This story is less about the monster himself and way more about the community that, well, created him. It's a cautionary tale about how fear itself can become its own kind of monster. The first big change, the name. The main character here isn't Peter Stump, he's a guy named Silas, and his defining features are so important. He's missing a hand. And he refuses to give up his traditional beliefs, the old ways, as this new, intense religion takes over his village. Right away, he's marked as an outsider. He's a perfect target. You can just feel the paranoia building step by step. It starts with dead animals. Then people go missing. And fear, it needs a target. So the whispers begin. A beast is rumored to have lost a paw. Hey, Silas is missing a hand. The connection isn't made by evidence, it's made by fear. His capture isn't the start of an investigation, it's just the confirmation of what they already wanted to believe.
So, when Silas confesses under torture, his story is almost too perfect. He says he made a pact, that he used a magical belt, everything the villagers were already whispering about. This version leaves it totally ambiguous. Was he actually telling the truth? Or was he just a terrified man telling his captors exactly what they wanted to hear to make the pain stop?
Okay, so we've looked at 3 wildly different monsters, all supposedly the same man. Now, let's bring them all together, put them side by side, and really see how this legend was shaped and reshaped over time.
This table just lays it all bare, doesn't it? The differences are incredible. Just look at the motivation. It goes from a philosophical pursuit of power to simple human vengeance to him having no real motivation at all. He's just a scapegoat. And the source of his power changes just as much, from an act of his own will to a demonic pact to a confession that might not even be real. The entire point of the story is completely transformed in each telling.
So what this really shows us is that the legend of Peter Stump is kind of like a mirror. Each version just reflects the anxieties and the beliefs of the people telling the story. Are they scared of the individual who breaks the rules? Are they scared of demonic temptation? Or are they actually afraid of what's lurking inside their own community? That's a dynamic that hasn't really changed much. We still see fear and prejudice shaping stories about outsiders today.
And all of this, it brings us to our final provocative thought. After seeing just how easily this story can be twisted to serve a totally different purpose, we're left with a really powerful question that third parable brings up.
Ultimately, that's what these shifting legends are asking us to think about. At the end of the day, is the real monster the one with claws and fangs, or is it the one that lives inside all of us? That fear that turns our neighbors into suspects and whispers into solid convictions? It's a question that makes the legend of Peter Stump feel terrifyingly relevant, even right now.